Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss books in horror. And today I am bringing you my spoiler-free review of the newest novel by CJ Tudor, her newest thriller horror book called The Drift.
It's coffee time!
So CJ Tudor published her first full-length novel back in 2018 called The Chalkman, and I heard so many people talking about it that I had to pick it up. I enjoyed it. It was not my absolute favorite, but I really loved the concept of it, so I kept picking up her novels, and so far I have in some way or another enjoyed them all. CJ Tudor's real name is Caroline, so CJ Tudor is her author's name, her pen name, because she thought that, you know, in order to write grisly murder thrillers, she could not put Caroline as her name. She felt like it just didn't fit. At the moment, she has 5 published full-length novels and also a book that came out in 2022, which is a compilation of short horror stories. And she also added a couple of short stories at the end of some of her full-length novels, depending also on the edition. So The Drift, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the plot. And for the most part, the book is about survival. We have 3 different people that we follow in the book, and they are all stranded, trapped, fighting for their lives in the middle of a snowstorm. This all after humanity has been dealing with a virus for the last 10 years that not even isolation and quarantine was able to hold. On top of that, there seems to be a killer on the loose, so who will survive and who will die? The book opens with almost a sneak peek on what's to come, and you already get the idea that we might be in a situation where we are kind of in a post-apocalyptic moment because of these virus that spread throughout the world 10 years ago. We have 3 different characters that are telling their story in first person, and all POVs are written wonderfully in a way that you can easily tell them apart. Also, all of our characters find themselves in the middle of a snowstorm that is going to come and is going to bring them nothing but death. We have Hannah, who is a medical student at the Invicta Academy. What people do there, they also do kind of research on viruses, and it is an isolated campus in the middle of nowhere. Hannah was traveling with a bunch of other students on a couch when they had a terrible accident. So after the crash, they all start to wake up inside of the coach. They don't know what happened. They just know that they had an accident. And unfortunately, some of the people already didn't survive. So Hannah is now stuck inside of a coach with a bunch of people she doesn't really know and a bunch of corpses. There is no way of getting out of that coach, and they also don't have any way of calling for help. Our next character is Meg. She's also stuck, but in this case she's stuck in a cable car. She's stuck with people she also doesn't really know. They don't know how they ended up in the cable car. All they remember is that they were meant to be transported to a place called The Retreat. When you go to the retreat, either you go because you want to volunteer or because you have no other choice. And our last character is a guy called Carter. Carter lives in the retreat. He's been living there for years with a bunch of other people, so at least he knows them a little bit. And he has some black spots on his face because he suffers some frostbite. And he kind of goes and explains to you how the retreat works, how they organize themselves to do everything, the chores and get groceries and stuff like that. But now the snowstorm is coming, so they know that they're going to be isolated for an undetermined period of time, again without the means of calling anybody for help. And obviously this place that we call the retreat is full of secrets. All these 3 characters are going to tell us their story, and I love the way that it's being explained and told, how the chapters are being like done, because it really allows you to get deep into every single one of their situations without confusing you as the reader. You always have a very clear distinction between characters, and all three of them felt like really well fleshed out characters. Alright, let's talk about the themes. Of course, we have here apocalypse / end of the world scenario, because there is a virus that spread throughout the world 10 years ago, and it was almost unstoppable. In fact, not even quarantine and isolation was able to stop it. There are some ways of knowing if somebody's infected. You can obviously test, or you can see by the way that they are acting. Some people will get red eyes, people will start acting really like aggressively, or just acting not like themselves. So the book kind of touches here and there the theme of, you know, the virus spreading and the symptoms and how to treat it and all of these things. Trust is another thing that is going to be explored in the story, because all of our main characters are trapped somewhere with people they don't really know. Some of them are trapped with complete strangers. So in a case where you have to survive and do anything in order to stay alive in the middle of a snowstorm, trust is a really big thing. You truly never know what people will do in extreme situations. And our next theme is isolation. Especially the retreat is a place that is very isolated, and they already struggle to get enough, you know, food and everything that they need to get delivered. And now in the middle of a snowstorm, they're going to be completely isolated. But not only them, Meg trapped inside of this cable car and Hannah trapped inside of the couch. All three characters have no way of calling anybody for help, so they are completely cut off from any left civilization. They're completely by themselves. Now let's talk about survival, because survival is a big part of this book. For the most part, our characters are just trying to survive, and they don't know who can you trust, who will help you, who can you sacrifice for the benefit of the group, who to believe, who are you gonna try to save. It's just a lot of questions, and it is quite interesting to see also the decisions that certain characters are going to do depending on the situation. And you always know when characters are put in extreme positions. I don't know, I just love to see how a character would react or what they would do. So I always love the theme of survival in horror. When it comes to the writing, if you've read anything else by the author, you kind of know what to expect. I feel like with the years she has gotten much better at writing, especially when it comes to different POVs. I feel like she did such a good job with this one at making the characters believable and being able to tell the stories apart really easy as a reader. I also felt like she found a really cool way to start connecting the dots and start, you know, connecting all three different stories at some point, because everything is in one way or another interconnected. I feel like if you love murder mysteries or mysteries in general, things you have to solve, you're probably gonna have a really good time with this one. The book is quite fast-paced and action-packed. I was having a blast. I was really excited to keep reading. All the chapters kind of end up on a cliffhanger, and all I wanted to do is keep reading, get back to that scene, see what happened, and how the scene was gonna be resolved. And that added a lot to the, you know, to the tension and to what you want to have in a good thriller. Also, obviously, all the characters have their own secrets and things that they are not really telling, so that helps a lot when it comes to start revealing secrets and for the twists and turns that the story is going to have. And a good thriller has a couple of good twists and turns. Now, the horror in this book comes from two different parts. The first part is obviously the virus that spread and for 10 years has been killing people that got infected. So there are some references to infections and the virus and all of that. But we also have the situation where people are getting killed and we don't know why or who is killing people. So you can expect some nice gore. There's gonna be intense gore at some point. There's blood and guts and all the good things. There's many kills, so I feel like if you're a horror fan, the body count is not gonna disappoint. There are a couple of parts with body horror, so I just wanted to mention that for people that are a little bit more sensitive with that. But for me, I was quite, you know, happy and pleased with all the horror that I got. CJ Tudor was born in Salisbury and then grew up in Nottingham, and she lives there now with her partner and her daughter. She left school and started to do a bunch of different random works until she landed a job interviewing people from the movie industry, which I thought was really interesting because she got to interview really important actors. Sigourney Weaver, Emma Thompson, Robin Williams are some of the people that she got to interview. How amazing is that? While she was writing The Chalkman, she actually had a dog walking business, and she would walk up to 20 dogs every single week. CJ Tudor always wanted to potentially be a writer, and inspiration finally came to her when her daughter got a tube of chalks as a present for her birthday, and she spent all day kind of drawing these chalkmen outside of her house. And then late at night, CJ Tudor opened the door, and in the darkness she could see all of these creepy tiny chalkmen, and that's when the idea for the book came to her. As for new potential releases by CJ Tudor, I have seen in Goodreads she has a book coming out in 2024 called The Six, and for what I could gather is about girls with powers, or our main character has the power of predicting what's going to happen, and apparently her mother also had the same power. So this sounds slightly like Firestarter, you know, like parents with powers and the kids inheriting those powers. Sounds a little bit, you know, Stranger Things-ish. Also is another theme that is very different from all her other books. So she's never written, you know, a book about superpowers or any type of power like this. So I'm really excited for it. I am definitely a sucker for this type of stories. As my final thoughts, I really enjoyed The Drift by CJ Tudor. I felt like this was a very, very solid thriller with horror elements to it. I was invested and really excited to find out what's going to happen next. I felt like all three stories had me really engaged. Sometimes in books where you have different points of view, you might feel invested only with one or two of them, but I felt like I was really interested in hearing more about all three characters. And if you're looking for a good winter thriller, this might be a really solid option. Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed the spoiler-free review of The Drift by CJ Tudor. Let me know down below if you read the book already and if you enjoyed it, and which has been your favorite CJ Tudor book if you've read them all. I still want to do a ranking video, which will come really soon. I'm just waiting to also read her short stories because I would like to include that book in the ranking as well. Thank you guys as always so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I hope to see you all as always in our next coffee time. Bye!